I'm going to start today by telling you a story about when Amanda and I started budgeting together, not necessarily as a married couple, but we were engaged. Let's go back to right before the wedding, 3 months before the wedding. I was aware that Dave Ramsey recommended 3 months of practice budgets, basically giving yourself 3 months worth of grace at a bare minimum in order to let the budget start working for you. I didn't want us to be focusing on the struggles of the budget for the first 3 months of our marriage. I wanted us to already be on the other side of that. But here was the problem. We were about 1,000 miles apart as the crow flies while we were engaged. Being engaged long distance has its challenges, not the least of which would be starting to budget before we were married. In order to facilitate connection and communication, we FaceTimed each other each evening throughout the entirety of our engagement with very little exception. We figured we could work in 3 budget meetings over FaceTime as a part of just our regular calling schedule. And I thought this was a good idea. The problem was we had not combined our finances yet, and it was also going to be that 3-month period where you got to give yourself some grace. You got to accept that there are going to be some negative emotions, that it's not going to be easy. It's going to take a lot of time. Because we weren't married and we didn't have things combined, we weren't looking at the same set of numbers. We had basically each made our own budget. It was like we were budgeting accountability partners, but we were going in with like a deeper intention to delve into each other's numbers and kind of vet them out. And we were trying to do this throughout the entirety of our personal budgets. And that didn't settle well when we weren't acting as a team, when things weren't combined. So I came into the budget meetings like fairly excited about them, thinking like warm, fuzzy, all right, let's make this like date night sort of thing. And that's just not the way that it ever went. We ended up just having a lot of back and forth that ended up incongruent. And we walked away from all 3 of those budget meetings leading up to being married with this like awful feeling in the pit of our stomach. Before I conclude the story, let's take a step back and say that we're coming up on the wedding now. It's the end of the 3 months of budgeting. None of it has gone really well, but we've tried. We've given ourselves grace, and we know that we're going to try it again the first month that we're married. So we got married. The wedding day was perfect. I shared a lot about the wedding preparation in episode 16 when I covered that budgeting stuff in the story there. We got all of our financial stuff combined, and we sat down for our first budget meeting as a married couple right after the honeymoon. I tell you what, I went into that budget meeting with lower expectations than I did on the first 3. I figured that it wasn't going to go well, that there was going to be a lot of practicing. I had prepped a draft of the budget. I presented it to Amanda. I had organized things. We went through it. It ended up being a little longer, but when we were done, we had an agreed on mutual plan. We didn't end up picking on each other for anything that wound up in the budget, be it something that I put in there or something that Amanda put in there. And I walked away from that budget meeting on cloud 9. It went well, and we stuck to that budget. Sure enough, on the other side of 3 months of practicing was something that had a lot of grace behind it. I don't know if it was the grace that we received in actually being a married couple. I don't know if it was the practice that we put into it. I don't know if it was the combining of finances that led us to having a more unified sense about the budget meeting. It could be a combination of all 3. What I do know is our intentional preparation for being good budgeters in marriage worked. And it can work for you. I know it can. I know that the communication that we've been able to exercise through the budget has been instrumental in developing and growing us spiritually and emotionally as a married couple. We have matured significantly by diving deeper into everything our money touches and making sure that our treasure is truly going where our hearts lie, making sure that our virtues and values are reflected in what we're doing with our money. And beyond that, the trust that we've developed with each other has deepened beyond anything that I can put into words. I don't know how to explain it other than telling you that you need to experience it for yourself. If you're married, if you and your spouse are married, I urge you to try budgeting for at least 3 months. I know that it's going to be hard. I've been through it. It's tough. But on the other side is grace beyond explanation. Our budget meetings have blessed us immensely through thick and thin, whether we were making a lot of money in a given year or just barely making ends meet. We've been able to get through all of it with the same level of confidence, trust, communication, consistency,